There I believe he roused a sleepy butler and was admitted. His coat and hat were there in the hall, but he did not take them. Instead he went to the lavatory off the lower hall. Got plenty of hot water? He asked. I think so, sir. There's an automatic heater. Good. Then I'll need a sieve, if you have one, and, what's your name? John, sir. I'll need 2 flat pieces of glass, John. Window glass. Know of any about? And it speaks well either for John's training or for certain private instructions that he never turned a hair. I'm new to the house, sir. But I dare say one could break a basement window. One could, and one might as well hurry and do it. He went away, with only the faintest flicker of a glance at what lay in Herbert Dean's palm, and in 5 minutes he was back with a wire sieve and 2 flat pieces of glass. Afraid they're rather irregular, he apologized. Well, breaking a window is irregular too, John. And I'm not doing this for looks. The thing he was doing, it appeared, was to place very carefully in the sieve a small charred piece of heavy paper, badly curled and black. After that he turned on the hot water and held the sieve in the steam, held it until the butler offered to relieve him. But he shook his head. Hold one of those pieces of glass, he said. I'll be ready to dump it soon. And John held it, much as he would hold a card tray at the front door. It is, I think, like the birdcage incident, one of the few light notes in all that grisly business of ours, that picture of the 2 men in that lavatory, the one dirty and unkempt, the other in an old dressing gown, and both enveloped in a cloud of steam while one of them held a sieve and the other the glass from a broken window. What do you think it is, John? Perhaps they'll be able to say at the laboratory, sir. Herbert Dean glanced up quickly, but the man's face was as impassive as ever. Headquarters? He asked quietly. Yes. The inspector got me the job, Mr. Dean. I'd be glad if you kept it to yourself. I do a good bit of inside work of this sort. All right. Now I'm ready. And that was how Herbert Dean, after a bath, shave and breakfast, turned up rather early in the morning at a downtown laboratory with a piece of heavy charred paper, still bearing along one edge a bit of dingy gilt and securely fastened between 2 plates of ragged window glass, and also with an envelope containing 8 discolored buttons, each with a miniature automobile stamped on it, and a bit of flower or plant stem, an inch or so long. He was indeed probably leaning over a microscope in that same laboratory when, at 8:45 that Tuesday morning, George Talbot was taken to police headquarters for interrogation as to the murder of Emily Lancaster. Chapter 27. So quietly had this been done that even Herbert Dean had not known it when he had made that visit to me between 10 and 11 o'clock of that day. It was Jim Wellington who came bursting in to tell me at noon, fortunately finding Mother at the Lancasters again and myself up and in a chair. But he wasted no time on polite inquiries. "Look here," he said. "Where's Dean? We've got to locate him." "Why? Is there anything new?" "New? They've arrested George Talbot for killing Emily Lancaster." "That's new, isn't it? And the devil is that they've got it on him. The bullet that killed Emily fits his gun. And when I say fits it, I mean fits it, scratches and all." He was almost inarticulate with fear for George and anger as to the whole situation, but at last I got the story pretty much as I know it now. Early that morning there had appeared at headquarters a rather frightened Negro woman, the Talbots' Amanda, accompanied by a pompous black man who was her husband, and prompted by him Amanda had told when and where she had found the empty shell in the Talbots' drying yard. The inspector after his long night was still at home and in bed, but Mr. Sullivan was there and heard the story. He let the Negroes go but kept the shell, and he apparently sat back and thought about it for some time. Before him on his desk was the report of that scuffle on the Grapevine path between Herbert Dean and George the night before, and also of the incident of the stable later on. It seemed to him, and he has repeated this since, that things in general, including Emily Lancaster's murder, had rather shifted toward the Talbot end of the crescent, so at last he got a car and drove out there. George had a .45, he knew that. Not only that. George had acknowledged being outside the night of the shooting, and having had to be admitted to the house later on.